I got it.
There we go. Show us started. Here we are, BS&BEER Canada. We're going to wait for a few minutes for all of you to fill in, join in. So if you already haven't grabbed a beverage, you can go find something from the tap or from the fridge or from the cooler, wherever you need to get it from. Hopefully you found your comfy chair, because the hosts are here, and we've got the man of the hour who is going to take care of hosting and or not hosting but presenting today. So Justin is in the hot seat, so we'll give you a couple minutes and then we will do some introductions and turn it over to Justin, because we've seen some pretty slick details that he's going to share with us. So get your screensaver snapping mode so you can make sure you can borrow these beautiful slides. So and we're lucky that we are going to be going from coast to coast and in the middle of the country, even though Connor will say that Toronto is the center of the universe in Canada, but we're actually going to go to technically more of a geographical node. So it's going to be a good show. All right, so I'm just going to turn things over so I can see some of the faces. All right, well, glad you guys are all here, and let's get at it. So thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening of November. Where has 2023 gone? We've got a couple more shows to do before we are into 2024. So thanks for joining us. I'm Sean Sainamore in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm the VP of Operations at Clay Construction. So as I tell my kids, I get to play with really expensive Lego kits, and my passion is resilient prefab passive homes. And so love these discussions about building science and high performance. And the beverage tonight is kind of going over to Gina and Aaron's roots. This is actually a cider from Summerland. Let's just turn off the background for a second. We're going to do that. So there you are. Dominion cider. And you'll appreciate this. I won these ciders at a Halloween event in Summerland. So cheers to all of you. And I guess I get to turn it over to Lori. So over to you, Lori. Cheers.
Right. Cool. Cheers, Sean. So I'm Lori Rand. I'm just laughing. I love the lollipop head that this always gives me. I got a haircut today and you can't even tell because of the background. So I'm Lori Rand. I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So I always lean the wrong way, but just off to my right shoulder. It's where I live and work. And I'm a passive house designer. I design single family homes and consult on bigger projects with my company Habit Studio. And I also am co-founder of Recover, which is a deep retrofit accelerator initiative based here in Halifax. And between those two things, I'm pretty busy. But I'm also a passive house instructor. And in 2 weeks, I'm teaching builder training here in Halifax. So if there's any Nova Scotians tuned in, hit me up and I will give you some details on, there's still a few spaces in that course. So we have builder training. Anyway, so those are all the things I'm up to, and I know absolutely nothing about Justin's work, so I'm really excited to hear more. I just followed you and your company on Instagram 30 seconds before I joined the Zoom call, so I attempted to bone up, and I'll stop chatting and turn it over to Connor.
Hey everybody, I'm Connor Beloy. I'm an educator in Toronto, Ontario. And although Sean says I say Toronto is the center of the world, it's Torontonians who say that. That's not me. I'm from London, small town outside of Toronto. I teach full-time at George Brown College. We teach construction students how to build and how to design, so they know how to communicate. I also teach at Toronto Metropolitan University Interior School of Interior Design. That's interior design students how to build. So again, they can learn that language of buildings and to be better communicators with their teams when they're practicing. I also teach workshops with Passive House Canada and do some one-on-one workshop with builders on how to use building diagnostic tools, blower door test, lots of fun stuff. So I love this theme. I love meeting Justin. looking forward to hearing tonight about everything he's up to.
All right, Justin, I think we're just going to turn it right over to you because, you and I have had the pleasure of talking a few times over the past year. Got to meet you in person at IBS last year, but I think it's better to hear from you. Who are you? What's going on? And how'd you get to where you're at? And then turn it over to what you want to teach us today. So over to you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I'm Justin Ott, owner of Element Construction and Development Group in a little town called Lumsden in the center of Canada, Saskatchewan. Well, I'll join Sean. I don't know if you guys can see this. It's a pirate paradise from a local brewery right here in Lumsden called Iron Bridge, and it's an IPA. It's a pretty tasty little beverage. So a little bit about us. We've been in business since about 2009. But honestly, I've been in the construction industry since I was old enough to tag along with my dad and my uncles to construction sites on summer breaks. I'd work with my cousins, and honestly, I have a lot of family that is in the trades, so kind of just in my blood. Our primary focus here in Saskatchewan is creating high performance builds, projects that are comfortable, healthy, resilient, and energy efficient. What I was going to share with you guys today was just some of our building envelope details and how we've created some tools to communicate that, not only with our team, but our sub trades, and honestly, just even educating our clients on how we're doing things a little differently, paying attention to some of the details, and just kind of, making ourselves stand out in that way. So a particular home that, we've used this details on, we just wrapped up a project. It's an 1,800 square foot bungalow on a full basement. This one is actually being labeled under CHBA's Net Zero Ready program. So we had lockup. What we call lockup is like it's framed. We're using the ZIP-R system on this one, so it's our air control layer on the exterior as well. Windows are installed. We used the Intello on the ceiling, and we've strapped a ceiling. So at that point, we can now consider our lockup test, and we hit 0.25 on that lockup test. So we're a big fan of the ZIP system. We've proven it over multiple projects to be very effective for us and very easy to implement into our in-house tradespeople as well as subcontractors for that matter. We were actually out there today and we did our occupancy or our final blower door. This home had kind of a dual fuel. We had a heat pump system in this, but we were using natural gas for a backup boiler. And then it also had a fireplace and quite a large range hood. So we knew that we'd have a little bit of leakage kind of creep up on us, but we ended up with a final of 0.50, which we were super pumped about. So that being said, I'd like to kind of dive into a little bit of our details that we've kind of had done up to help us communicate and really just ensure that we can continue to build in this fashion. So Lori, if I could share my screen with you.
I think we need Gina to do that.
Oh,
I think you're good. You go ahead and yeah.
Perfect. You guys can see this.
Looking good.
Awesome. So, I think like many others, they start off with a pen and paper and they're trying to communicate with their team or their sub trades on some details. And I was like, this is ridiculous. We need something that's a little more detailed and that can really kind of layer in what we're trying to do. So I came across a company, I'll give them a little shout out, called Beyond Code. These guys are based out of British Columbia and Alberta. And they did up what we're calling our zip R envelope details. And these details are pretty accurate on the build that I was just describing. And yeah, I'll just kind of go through. It's got a ton of features to this, but I'll kind of simplify it so that we're not here for the next couple hours. So I will show you this. These are pretty large files, so sometimes it takes a half a second to.
It's all good. We all can have a sip of our beverage and then you can dive into it. It's all good. Look at that. That is sexy.
Yeah, so here's kind of you know, kind of an overview of what some of this modeling looks like. In this one particularly, you can kind of go in. And what I think is really interesting about what we've done is you can kind of go into your control layers and understanding some of the continuity between those. So say, for instance, if I click on our air control layers, we can kind of get a blow up of, you know, we're coming from the zip on the exterior, how we're taping back down to that foundation. In this circumstance, we left this a little bit higher so we could connect to the ladder box. And then also we didn't use the tape, we used the liquid flash, which, you know, we like using in some of those. But you can kind of see how we use a gasket. We do a bit of a double caulk method and then a 3/4 ply. And then that takes us back into the interior on here. Let's see. Oh my gosh. And then I was trying to see if it showed. Yeah, we'll just drop in. It's kind of a color-coded scenario where you start to see, okay, well, here's our thermal layers. We got our water control on the exterior. So it's a pretty neat, and you can kind of get into like the actual layering of everything and the sequencing of this. And just to kind of show you what that looks like, I'll just click on our little animated videos. And I've used these at trade shows to just role play on our screens at our booth, just so people can stop and kind of be like, hey, what the heck's going on here, right? So
That's really cool, man.
yeah, you know, it's one of those things where it's a what did Aaron say the other night? You know, a picture's 1,000 words, but like honestly, what does, you know, a 3D modeling, you know, with layering and everything else, like you know, our big thing was, you know, we have a really stellar in-house crew that's grasped all the details and are very collaborative, and we understand what's going on and what needs to be done. But when we start looking at bringing on trade partners and trying to educate them, especially with our growth of our company, we're like, we need some way of communicating this to others and using it as that, right? So you know, as you can see, we kind of have it, our foundation details, our deck details, our window details, our door details. This one specifically is kind of like a door to deck. We're doing a lot of our projects. We have a lot of like waterproofing membranes or rubberization systems that are going on our decks because it's either a living space or just a patio that they want to have dry under there. And then, you know, another really neat one is that I'd like to show you guys is how we get from kind of like that foundation, if you will. You guys just seen how we kind of work up the wall and we connect some of those details. Another one is just our transition between where we go from our zip system into our Intello on the inside. And so, you know, this is really handy when we can start to show, okay, well, we're going to sheet that wall, we're going to tape this back off to that top plate, we're going to continue on with our zip system right to the underside of truss. But then, you know, we can say, okay, well, now we're coming in with our ceiling detail, taping that back off, making a connection and coming across, right? So when you can start getting into the layers of some of this stuff and understanding sequencing, it starts to make a lot of sense to everyone. And it really just makes for a really successful project. And I do believe that it's kind of all in the attention to details. And yeah, that's a gist of it. Like I said, I don't even know how many pages of stuff that we could roll through and show you guys, but I just kind of wanted to show you this. And you know, we plan on kind of doing this we don't necessarily do the zip on all of our projects. It's kind of our baseline, and we know, hey, we can hit this if we want to kind of standardize it. We've had some projects where we've used, you know, say the Mento 1000 on the exterior. You know, we're working on one in design now where we're going to be using the zip sheeting again, but then we're outbounding 4-inch rock wool insulation, and you know, so we'd like to see us slowly develop an entire file of all of these details for all of our projects. So, and then just repeat it, right? Like, we know what works. Every project maybe has its own little requirements to really fine tune it for that client. But the more we just keep adding to our library, the easier it is. And especially the next time, if, you know, 75% of the details are the same, the guys at Beyond Code can just grab those details and make those fine tunes. And it's not like this big expense to keep going back in and designing from the bottom up again, right? So yeah, that's really kind of what I wanted to show you guys, and how we're I guess kind of changing how we do things here with our team in Saskatchewan to keep pumping out some really good projects.
Awesome stuff here. I think we all got a lot of questions. So maybe I'll just start just kind of like at the design phase is, when you meet with your designers, I mean, you have all of the construction drawings for it all. So are they adopting your methods, or how are like those conversations? Like, do you have some integrated design planning going on? Like, tell us about just the design phase, because you have this amazing like details. Like, that's crazy how beautiful those things are.
Yeah. So you know, something that I think we do a lot differently is we have a whole construction, like a pre-construction phase, where when our clients come to us, we start off understanding, you know, kind of their goals for the project, and then we'll kind of understand from there where we need to go.
Okay.
You know, off the get-go, Saskatchewan, like, I truly found it really hard to find those connections and people that, you know, I could really lean on. But we've evolved over the last handful of years, and we've really found a really good team. And, you know, it's even stemmed back into having my architects add details into plans to a certain degree, that we would like to see on the plans, and not just assuming, you know, every trade knows what needs to happen. And then, you know, just taking it one step farther with having Beyond Code do up some modeling for us. Yeah, so it's really been an evolution over the last handful of years, for sure.
Love it. I think Connor's got a question on deck. So Connor.
Sorry, I teach on Zoom. I still mute myself. Yeah, I got lots of questions, and I'll start with the first one. I think what's so powerful about what you're doing for your team with details is it looks like the building you're going to construct. So when we think about a plan set, even the best, you know, issued for construction drawing, it's an orthographic projection, right? There's no perspective to things. Maybe a couple hatch patterns generated by, you know, Revit or CAD. but to have the texture of zip, have the texture of the flashing tape, to see, if you're familiar with the Stego system, you're like, okay, I'm guessing that that's 10 mil piece on top of your foundation wall because it's yellow. That affordance, I think, is really quite powerful when things are not black and white and they're not 2D, and you can step that up. So I'm curious, like with that kind of model, so it's got videos and you can do stage sequencing. How does your team use that when they're actually on the site? Is it iPads and tablets? Are you doing lunch and learns? How's that happening?
Yeah, so we haven't started like integrating like on that level yet, right? So our team that we've been working with, we've primarily been doing everything in-house. So these details are kind of the details that we've done for the last handful of years. So our team's pretty familiar with how we're rolling it out. But what I see is exactly that, Connor. I see us having tablets that guys can actually drop into their files, go on to this. We use Buildertrend. So like we have a file on Buildertrend that basically anyone can drop in. If they're on our app, they're part of our team, they could go into that specific job and click on that file, right? So whether it's on their phone or a tablet, but I think that project kickoff with those teams and just running through that is super important, just to familiarize everyone with it. And then from there, just having it in their hand or in the truck that they can go and grab and just double check, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
and because it's so clear, it's almost like you don't need to worry about building a mock-up because they're that good. I mean, I love a good mock-up so you can touch and feel it, but I feel like what you just did there, I did touch and feel the products and the detail. And sorry, Connor, I just want to chime in just because
No, I think you're right. Like I struggle with the same thing on our own job sites is, do we build physical mock-up or do we spend the time to build a model in SketchUp? Because the SketchUp model can give you different views, perspectives, and then you can stage the layers. So turn on layer 1 as you showed, footings on, then wall is poured, then top of wall capillary break, then we're setting our sill plate, then we're doing this. Like it's sequenced in a way that a mock-up can't be. The mock-up still is only after. And I think what's so great is you're showing, there you've got 4 or 5 different tapes and sealants and wet applied and mastic and this, and that's confusing to a young person, to a new tradesperson. So that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
And Justin, do you want to share again? Because I mean, I'd love to dive into that footing detail. And I don't know for you guys, I mean, I've never seen a footing detail where you've got the wood set in there and how you kind of like cover over top for connection pieces. Like that
Yeah,
seems pretty
Yeah,
good. Like,
I was actually going to ask you to go back to that too. I just want to
Yeah.
keep looking at them.
yeah.
Okay, let me jump back.
I mean, Justin, you're nice to look at, but we'd rather look at your details.
Yeah.
Before you're gonna say.
Well, the detail is interesting because I want to actually get somebody to do a thermal on that like top 6 inches.
Yeah, well, that was actually a comment in the chat.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see side values.
So zoom in there, and I mean, I love how it gets carried down.
Let me see. I'm gonna get into. Well, let me go back.
This is a solid investment. I mean, you talk about good value for your money. This is amazing what you've done for your team.
So it's
cool.
funny. I was actually wondering the same. I was thinking that like, I mean, I don't need you to tell us what it costs, but I kind of was wondering if you would speak to that, because I feel like people who are watching this are kind of wondering, okay, what would it take for me to get my details into this kind of shape? And also, I've been in about 6 different organizations where with lofty goals of having like shared details libraries, and this would, kind of take that into overdrive, like an approach like this.
Yeah, the bar's been set.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it wasn't inexpensive, that's for sure. But my I guess idea was as we can continue to build on these details and evolve, it was really just like that first step into it that was like the big chunk, right? And then from there, those small little tweaks that I'm going to have them do, like it's just kind of like an hourly thing at that point to just adjust what we already have. So I mean, yeah, it was a big investment for us, but you know, I felt like what we're trying to do here in Saskatchewan to really push the high performance and understanding that we're going to need to try to relate information to our sub trades and to our teams and stuff that weren't familiar with a lot of this stuff. I don't know that like it's invaluable, honestly. Yeah, so you guys were looking at our ladder box details that we do here. Yeah. So I know I've seen lots of guys just do mud sills and stuff. We're a big fan of the ladder box here, only just because of the precision that we can get out of our foundation heights and the adjustability that we can have pretty easily on site with just with our laser levels and bumping that up and down. And then yeah, we have you know, our sill gasket that we put through here, and we put a little bit of caulking on each corner here, and then we actually just sandwich that 3/4 ply on there. And what that does is it just allows a really nice clean surface to start fastening these trusses down to. And you know, it's just more so about the accuracy of building off that foundation. And then so, you know, to address some of the thermal stuff, we try to kind of steer a little bit away from the spray foams as much as we can. But one area that I've really found nice is just these, you know, the joist ends in here. And then we actually wrap that right down, and we do a kind of a flash and bat model on our foundation, so that we have that continuity right from the underside of that floor all the way down. And then we've even done it under slab, where we've just ran straight across, spray foamed back up to the sides, and then we're kind of tied in, you know, at the bottom of this floor here.
Well, I know our good friend Robert's here, and I swear he better be taking this to the Huber board for some awards, because this is some of the best detailing I've done here. And I know Big Red might be joining us, and I said in the comments, like, he must be jealous, because like these are slick. Like even just having the caulking joint in there. I mean, we've seen that detail now a few times, but like see it in this scale and being like, you've actually thought about it. It's there, it's in red, and you can see how it connects. Like I'm like, I was blown away when I got a bit of a sneak peek of these, but now that you're doing what you're doing, I mean, like, this is top notch. Like,
yeah, and I mean, you know, you jump into some of the different files, but like, you know, like even for instance, our guys to understand. So like on this system, we have the Delta Dry and Lath, which we've been using now on all our stucco projects, just because, you know, everyone says Saskatchewan's a dry climate, but honestly, if you can't manage water, it doesn't matter if you're in a dry climate or not, right? So we've seen some pretty significant failures with some of the stucco here, and so we've just gone straight to using the Delta Dry and Lath. But you can kind of see our integrated flashings kicking away, and then our you know, our bug screen on the bottom and all this. So just for guys to understand, you know, just the placement of some of those flashings is really good. And then, you know, going back down into our foundation and how we're capping all of that. And yeah, it's just a really I don't know. I'm not a big tech guy, but you know, it's made it really cool to communicate with our guys, you know, in this fashion, right? Like, as you can see, I even, you know, I can fumble my way through some of this stuff, but I'm not real good at it.
you're doing great,
You're
man.
doing great.
Yeah.
But
Hey, just so you know, if you really want to get snazzy, you could get a GIF for Antello and you can add it in there, but you can upgrade from the stars to it if you really wanted to. Hey, question for you, just because that panel that you put on the concrete, do you guys actually put a panel on, or do you just leave the exposed concrete?
yeah, so we do kind of like it's kind of like a scratch coat and a stucco, like a
Okay.
parging coat on the foundation. we've done projects where we'll actually, because the neat part about the zip is we've actually done where, you know, say if we had a 2 or 2.5 inch panel, because we're using the zip R 9 or 12 typically, we'll actually land that foam right underneath here and then just run that right down the whole foundation wall on the exterior, out past our footings. And then you get that nice continuity all the way down. We've just found sometimes, you know, especially, you know, we have a lot of raised basements and kind of all over the place. And we've just found it a little bit difficult to try to detail that and make it all look nice. And so, you know, that's where we've just gone, you know, if we have a client that's got, you know, a goal of going to what we're saying are net zero or net zero ready kind of projects, that we've just found that, hey, you know what, we're going to run this zip on the exterior, we're going to jump in and go to our spray foam on the inside face, and then a rock wool bat in there, and that just makes it a little cleaner on the exterior to detail. Whereas, like I said, we do have some projects where maybe the budget allows us to actually just continue and run some insulation on the exterior and work with that detailing. It's just a little cost prohibitive sometimes trying to detail it. So
yeah, I mean, I run the same issue where that, you know, tape detail from the plywood or the, you know, your WRB or exterior barrier to the concrete, and how then the flashing guy comes in and he has it flashing a step too high, and now I see the exposed tape, and you're like trying to hide the tape, folks, and then we have to cover the panel or try to cut tape off, and like it's just not happening. So we have to end up having to cover 2 inches of that tape plus concrete when we just needed to just deal with that, you know, that tape connection. So
right.
I have a non-sexy question. This is back to clients' money and estimating. If you, it sounds like this is kind of like an investment for your team to really see your practices and your envelope details. You mentioned, you know, now that you've made this investment, you know, it's like going to the movies and paying a bunch of money for the large, and the extra large is a bit more. You can now make changes to this model more easily. Do you see yourself then saying, okay, to your next client, here's a project estimate. Under project setup, we're carrying, you know, X hours for model edits and upgrades. Are you seeing yourself now adding that cost to the job so that client pays for these models moving forward, or are you seeing it more as a training investment for your team as you go forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've done a lot of you know, questioning and how we want to address that. But you know, I look at it as, you know, we've done that initial investment. And to me, this is just like, you know, paying an architect or paying an engineer on your home. I think that when you can explain to the clients, hey, we're going to take this, fine tune it. We're going to take, you know, call it a handful of hours from our designers to fine tune this to your envelope. I think that should just be part of the package. I think that's like risk management, saying, hey, like, we've given this to all our trades, we've educated, we've shown them, you know, that way, honestly, you know, if there's a slip up, even, I think, like, you know, like I said, risk management, like down the road, if something were to happen, it's like, hey guys, I don't know how much more I could have explained this to you. There wasn't any like miscommunication or the ability for that, right? So I do think that moving ahead, we will integrate some sort of a fee or just, you know, a model change into our pre-construction and some of those costs. Yeah.
It's also
it's
going
really
to
good.
save you time. Like, it's going to speed you up. So like the value is going to be baked in anyway. Like, even if there is an upcharge for that, it's going to be offset with the efficiencies that you can achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. And I think if you can put that, or if all of us can put those in our estimates, then it's easier to call Beyond Code and say, okay, can we make the updates? It's on me again to pay for the updates. You know, my website's out of date, my BT count's out of date. Like, we have all these things that we have to maintain. I think sometimes if you know there's a little bank account that's been reserved for you to update that for that job, I think it's more likely that it's going to get done. And again, I think it's a cost of goods sold for that client. So that's great. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love these details. It's really great. I mean, I guess the future kind of question is, I mean, you have all of the air barrier details taken care of. I mean, the next phase when you're dealing with BIM modeling is class detection with your MEPs. And are you able now to, are you guys looking at like the next phase of, okay, well, we've got the shell figured out. How do we ensure that we're not, having plumbing or structural issues? Or is the answer the fact that you guys are going with these floor trusses, and so mechanicals shouldn't really collide because they've got a lot of a lot of spaces to run through?
Yeah, so I mean, we've started including some pretty simplistic, electrical drawings and mechanical drawings. But I mean, it's not uncommon for us to, like, 99% of our projects have open web trusses for the floor systems. In some of our custom homes that allow us to, we actually do this detail again, where we actually have, an open web truss in the basement as our floor system, and that's on like a small swaled crawl space underneath. And then we have access on both levels. It kind of future proofs the house so that if you ever needed to run something, or, for instance, I actually have a perfect example. My home that I built for myself 12 years ago, it was built open web trusses main floor. It's a walkout open web trusses on the basement with a crawl space. And for some reason during the construction process, our main water line must have sustained some sort of damage. And 8 years into the living in the house, all of a sudden our entire crawl space was full of water. And it was fortunate that we had a crawl space, because now we could just pump it out, throw some dehumidifiers down there, dry it out, and we were able to chase a new water line back in. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the open web trusses. I think it has so much future proofing, and yeah, it allows for a lot less bulkheads, and yeah, it's really, we found it very successful.
And so maybe Justin, just describe some of the builds that you guys are doing. I mean, the one you're showcasing was more of a rancher style with that with the space, the crawl space below. But what's typical builds for you guys, square footage wise, and are you kind of having some repeat models?
Yeah, so I was just going to show you, I did bring a couple pictures here of that one that we were in discussion. Sorry guys, it's opening on the wrong screen. So this is the home that we just finished. So like you said, it's kind of just like a ranch style bungalow. This one's 1,800 square feet with a full basement. For the most part, oh yeah, here's a neat picture that I thought I'd show you guys of. This one's maybe for Robert. This is a kind of a cool zip picture overlooking the lake. Yeah, so I mean, we're mostly bungalow style homes. We do a couple 2-story homes. Our market is very diverse, so we can go down from building 1,100 square foot homes all the way up to quite large homes, let's call it. And we're not a big market. Our working radius is approximately 30 to 40 minutes. We don't have to go too far, which is nice. It allows us to not really spend a whole lot of extra time traveling. Our focus over the last well, I mean, our focus has always been high quality homes, right? And a lot of that has come from, just growing up in the industry, and our uncles and my father, they were always trying to build something better, and learning from them. But we built our first, I'm going to call it our high performance home, about 3.5, 4 years ago. And that was really a game changer for us. We were seeing a lot of building envelope failures in the market, and we were just like, it was eye-opening, right? And we just wanted to really ensure that, just because we thought we were doing something right, we wanted to make sure we were doing things right for clients. So we really started diving into the whole building science and and building better. And now we've pretty much, we've set a standard that if clients don't want to have those discussions about high performance building envelopes, water management, then they're not the right client for us. We'll let them go somewhere else. You know, it's hard to do that in a smaller market, but we found it very successful, and we're working with a lot of really good clients, and we're turning out a lot of projects that we're really proud of, right? So
Love it. And for you guys, like what's typical like turnover, or not turnover, but startup phase, like with building permits? Like when you get a client, are you saying, okay, we're gonna onboard you and put you in the forecast for a year, or are you kind of landing them drawings, permits? I don't know. I mean, I like if you're doing it within 3 or 4 months, I might move. 'Cause
yeah, so I mean, we're probably about six to 12 months worth of like
Okay.
pre-construction work, and then
Okay.
and then we're diving into the home. You know, some of those projects might go a little bit quicker, but that's normally what we're seeing for kind of a lead time on that.
Awesome. And again, being in Saskatchewan, have you made the pilgrimage to the Saskatchewan house, and have you had a chance to have a cup of coffee with Harold Orr?
No, I haven't. That is on my to-do list though. Yeah, it's one of those things where it needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner than later here. Yeah, I just haven't made that happen.
I mean, I've been there virtually, but again, it's funny when you look at on Google Maps of how it's tucked in behind this multifamily, and it definitely doesn't have that Valley Saskatchewan view that it once had. It's now in the burbs of wherever it's at. So yeah, well, maybe it's one of the ones I'll have to trek to see you, and we'll go find Harold Orr and find a cup of coffee. And I'm sure there's a tip nearby.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Justin, Valentine had a question from the chat, wondering whether you own the rights to the drawings or whether there's a time and fee associated for you accessing them after construction, or if you want to share them with a client. I guess the answer is, do you own the rights to them, or does Beyond Code own the rights to you and you pay per use?
No, yeah, like I've paid them to do those drawings for us. Yeah. So they are ours. We have access. We can share them. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Really cool.
So
when
what's
go
go
ahead, Laurie. Go ahead, Sean.
No,
No, I just had more of a planning question for 2024, but I think yours is more specific to what we've been listening and learning and the fun stuff. So go for it.
Yeah, I think it's just to wrap up on that idea. I think, so I grew up just in a design build business. We did drawings in-house. And I think until I came to Toronto and started seeing different levels of drawings, we worked with an in-house team who basically knew what the company's details were. And therefore, the drawing packages could be very simple. And I didn't yet know at that age that was just a permit set, right? Made to satisfy building code, really life safety, sizes of lintels, size of footing. It just says flashing as required, right? Nothing more than that, because we didn't need it. And then later learning that there is actually this next drawing set called the construction set, and that's where actually details all of these elements. It seems like your model is kind of a hybrid to that. Construction set is, you could, as a company, have your basic permit submission, and then when your client makes an investment in the construction set, they could instead make this investment in a builder like yourself, doing your drawings yourself, having a company making 3D models, and maybe that being a lot more visceral or easier for you to understand. So maybe it seems like a new way of doing that issue for construction sets. So it's really, really quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it here where, what's required to get a building permit is there's not a lot of detail to those plans, right? And you're leaving a lot of the important details to that of either the general contractor or the subtrades doing the work. So, we felt it was extremely important to just start including some of these details. and opening up that conversation with trades and our in-house guys and whoever's part of that, right, to make sure that these things are getting done, because it's, for a lot of people, it's one of the biggest expenses they'll ever have in their life, and we feel it's really important to get those details right for them.
100%. I think like we often do millwork drawings, right? Cabinet details, handles, whether you got an OG edge or a 1/4 inch roundover, but yet we didn't draw the flashing, right? As you said, it doesn't really matter if we're not managing water. So I think that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even count how many people have no issue spending money on an interior designer. Well, let's spend a little bit of money on the exterior, right? And understanding these details.
So then, Justin, what's the plan for 2024? What do you guys have on the docket? What do you think you're at from employee growth and kind of what are those kind of like business strategies that you guys are kind of focusing on?
Yeah, so we got a lot of exciting things happening in 2024. I just received my BC builder's license last week, so we're looking at maybe doing some projects out west, and we've also got maybe some unique projects cooking up in Nunavut, and we've also got some really neat projects just in our local area. So yeah, we're really focusing on our team, making sure that we're in a position that everything's ticking, and then also looking for the next guys that can be added to the team to really take us where we need to come next spring, right? So yeah, no, it's really exciting times. We got a lot of good stuff ahead of us, and yeah, I'm excited to see what's in store for us.
And with your local market, when you talk about net zero, passive house, high performance, I mean, you're finding clients that are starting to talk the same language as of you guys, but is it still pretty much like people want shelter, or are you finding like what's the market and what's some of the words that clients are coming to you with?
Yeah, I mean, obviously what we're kind of trying to push here, it's difficult, right? It's definitely limiting our ability to continue our growth. But that being said, when we're finding those clients, they are really good clients. They're speaking the language. They're invested in this project just as much as you are, which is super important, right? But for us, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to catch up with some of you other guys, and just our focus on where we want to go. That's kind of why we're exploring some other opportunities, just to continue that growth and really just allow us to maybe be in a better position to create opportunities for us here, and rather than waiting for them to come. So
is there sorry, I'm just curious in your market if you have done enough high performance builds or passive house to have a sense of what the premium is. So when people ask me about that here in Atlantic Canada, I usually say it's it can be 0%, but it's usually somewhere around 7 to 10%. Do you have a sense of that for Saskatchewan, or are there not enough projects yet under your belt?
I mean, we probably, because those first couple are really like the learning curves, right? So they come at a bit of a premium, and that's why we're trying to generate some consistency in what we can offer, so that we can really fine tune that. But on average, if I had to kind of throw a number at it, we're probably hovering somewhere between 5 to 10% on what we're seeing. We'd really like to get that lower, and that's just going to come with I guess more projects, right? And more people in the area starting to do projects. A big thing for us is like getting products to Saskatchewan, because there's not a lot of people that carry the products that we're trying to use too, right? So we have a bit of a logistical challenge with that. Yeah, but I mean, I'm hopeful. We have a ton of really good conversations with some people, and we're we're still working on pre-constructions, you know, for the next year, right? So we're in good shape.
Yeah, but 5 to 10%, that's really reasonable. Like that's kind of perfect.
Yeah, especially too when you think of it, it is some of those delivery fees because they're not off the shelf products, you know, that are really there, and the fact that you've been able to fine tune things. Gina had a question. Gina, do you want to ask it, or do you want us to ask it on your behalf? Do. All right, 1, 2, 3. She gave up. Do you ever build with ICF, or do you like the interior wall insulation assembly in the foundation?
Oh gosh, you're gonna go to the ICF, are you?
She's, hey, I didn't do it. You know, we can blame Aaron. Since Aaron's not here, Aaron asked the question from afar.
That's right.
You know what? I get asked the ICF question so much, and the simplest answer is I love seeing my concrete. I love knowing that I have concrete. This foundation is going to last 100 years plus, and you know, I can manage the, you know, the thermal details and the air details and the water details after I strip my forms off, and I know I got an 8-inch wall of concrete.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. I mean, again, there's so many ways to build. There's so many ways to do different things. When you look at your details, that, you know, you even talked about 3 or 4 different wall assemblies that can change depending on what you're doing. I mean, the fact that you're confident in what you do and you got a system that works, you know, again, that's the way it goes. Robert, you got a question? Fire up.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Robert.
Is it difficult with code officials when you have so many details, or do you do understand? Because let's say in some regions, sometimes it's kind of difficult for some people.
Yeah, so the code officials and I have a lot of really good conversations, and a lot of that is just helping them understand what we're doing differently. You know, they like to challenge us, just because they haven't seen some of the products that we're using, and they haven't seen some of the you know, building practices, if you will. But it hasn't restricted us in any way. They haven't stopped or made us do anything different. We really have a good conversation about what we're doing, why we're doing it, the products that we're using. And yeah, we've been pretty fortunate that way, where our building professionals, they value what we're doing, and yeah, we haven't had any issues.
Good. Yeah,
I thought you were gonna
I did the presentation to those code officials in Saskatchewan, and sometimes, let's say, the crowd is not the easiest one to work with, but let's say it was great. That time, I remember it was just before pandemic, and I almost had standing ovation. So after the presentations, I was kind of stunned about it, because let's say all the other presentations were so kind of boring, or no one were talking. So it was kind of fun. So I'm glad you're getting you're doing a good job with them, and you're having a good discussion with them.
Yeah, we're a little bit stubborn in Saskatchewan. We don't like a whole lot of change. We like building things the way we have for the last 50 years, but when you can explain to them why we're doing things differently, and they seem to get on board pretty quick.
Good job, buddy. I'll be down your way sometime in either December or January.
Awesome. I look forward to grabbing a coffee with you.
Beer, please.
He's calling it what it is. Well, it's funny, Robert. I thought you were going to say, you know, you came out to a presentation with the one code official for all of Saskatchewan. So again, I'm glad.
No, let's say that there was like almost 50 of them, and
I just being a jerk.
It was 2 days of presentation, and all the presentation that went on. Let's say no one was talking, no one was asking any question, and I was the last one to go through. And man, it was amazing. I got all kind of questions, and it was really, we had a lot of fun. Sometimes those presentations could be a little bit boring because they're kind of technical, but let's say at that time it was so much fun. I came out of, and it was in Swift Current, so had a 2-hour drive to get back to Saskatoon, or no, Regina that time. So I'll be down your way, Justin. Don't worry about it.
Robert, that's because you're a storyteller and those people were presenting. That's the difference of what occurred right there. So good on you. Always
Yeah, we
appreciate
have a couple of good stories too.
Can't deny
I think
that.
just one comment I just want to jump in there is to Robert's question. I think maybe Justin, what you're doing is when we are, working in a community where there's some pushback from either plan examiners or inspectors, as much as Ontario seems progressive, Justin, it's the same thing here. We still build often 50 years behind or the same. Is there's almost a strategy to when you do your plan submittal, maybe it just says WRB or air control layer or vapor control membrane, and then your detail calls out all of these specific products and tapes. Because I can see for an examiner, if you said, okay, this is going to be Fentrum and that is going to be ExoSeal, this is going to be that's Intello. It's 1,000 words I never heard before. And maybe it makes them want to circle it red and go, yep, show me the letters. And maybe your approach is actually de-risks the approval process for them. And then you have this amazing build model. So just a thought. That's cool.
Yeah, our like I said, it doesn't take much to get a permit here. So our plans literally say vapor control, and they find out on site that I have Intello.
So that being said, too, I mean, with those like in Vancouver, I mean, I'm using Vancouver, I'm okay, but any other municipality, if we're doing a high performance project that's not a passive house, I'm hiring a building envelope consultant on every project, just because it's just a pain in my butt to just delay that rough inspection by 2 weeks of having all the product information pop out. It's just easier just to be like, talk to him, take his letter and a schedule, and we can just move on, because it's just a pain in the butt of, them not seeing a white product and a clear product in the inside when we have all the different stuff. It's a conversation that is unfortunate with these building officials.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the nice things about where we are, is like I've been working with the same building inspection company for the last 10 years, right? So they know who I am. I can pick up the phone and call them and be like, hey, what about this or what about that? And we can just have a conversation. I can imagine some of the challenges that come with some of the bigger centers and not being able to just have that conversation, right? So
But sometimes it's not always the big centers. Let's say right now, Chris and Kamloops is asking for some question about zip to the building code official and doesn't get anything. And the request was done in September. I've dealt with St. John, Newfoundland. Let's say we started dealing with them in July, and we just got a reply last week. So sometimes it could be very difficult to get, let's say, any answers from the code officials. So
yeah. Or you got a good one, was just you throw it up on the wall and then it's like, I'm not taking it down. It's approved. I'll just go over your head. Like, when we go to the mayor, let's keep working our way down. Like, I'm using it because it's all approved across Canada. You guys figure it out. But or like what we've done all these projects, and then even with what Chris and other people have done in Kamloops, just hire a building envelope consultant and they take off the risk and we just move ahead. So yeah. Anyhow, great details. Well, we are at the top of the hour. I think we have answered all the questions, and unless Laurie or Connor, if you have anything else, we might as well carry on with our evenings. Or I think most of us are Canada, so yeah, we're definitely
our bedtimes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so no, I get it.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you,
that
Justin.
was really fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think it's eye-opening. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, great work.
Well, again, I mean, I've been following you and I've seen some beautiful projects, but when Aaron said, hey, by the way, this is what we have this week, I was like, this is going to be a great show. And you outdid yourself. And again, your team is blessed with these great details. And like I said, I mean, I wouldn't build a mock-up. I would just go back to these renderings because, boy, they're sure slick. It's pretty awesome stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank
done.
you guys for allowing me to share what we're doing here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Well, again, hopefully we'll see you in person soon enough. And I guess everyone, we'll see you in 4 weeks, but I think there'll be a holiday edition of BS&BEER Canada because it falls on December 21st. And about that time is ugly sweaters and eggnog, and probably spicing up the eggnog. So I'm not sure what we've got brewing for December, but we've got lots lined up for January and February of 2024. Justin, we appreciate what you're doing there in the middle of Canada, and stay warm. And so do you, and one question is, you're only doing climate zone 7?
Yep.
Pretty much. Okay. Bundle up, my friend. All right. Gina, I think if that's it on your end, you can hit the ejection button and we can part ways with everyone and we'll regroup